How's my hair?
Beautiful, as usual.
Thank you.
What is there is
What is
good.
there?
Howdy, y'all. My name is Dylan Wu with the Austin Beacon, and I am seated here today with Pano Kanelos. President Kanelos, thank you so much for speaking with me today.
I'm thrilled to be here, Dylan. This is very exciting.
We're in the library of our brand new university, but I'm curious, what's the Genesis story? Like, how did all of this get started?
Yeah, the original conception for the University of Austin came out of conversations that were underway between Barry Weiss and Neil Ferguson and Joe Lonsdale and Arthur Brooks and myself and a few other people, and just said, let's spend a couple days together and think about this and talk about this in a intensive fashion and see what emerges at the end. And at the end, what emerged was a commitment to starting a university. I hesitated slightly because I had a wonderful job and I was settled in family, but it was clear to me that this was the thing to do, that this was something we were all being called to do, and that it was a once in a lifetime opportunity. And so I did commit to it.
On that topic, what is the purpose of a university?
Yeah. There's so many different types of universities, manifestations of universities over time and across history. On the other hand, they represent sort of a kind of common, let's say, core, and that is that a university is the place in society that we set apart to do our thinking together, right? So as a university, the University of Austin is interested in the pursuit of truth. That is the discovery of knowledge, the transmission of knowledge, and the preservation of knowledge over time, addressing the great human questions and great human needs. So that's what we do as a university. What is this university about? This university, I think, is grounded in some core principles that are connected to the pursuit of knowledge. We believe that in order to pursue truth as vigorously as possible, that a university has to be committed to the principles of open inquiry, freedom of conscience, and civil discourse. Open inquiry, that is that, every question is a kind of legitimate question. We call ourselves Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens are the creatures that seek knowledge, seek wisdom. And so open inquiry says, well, the range of those questions should be as broad as possible, and the answers we bring to the table should be as varied as possible so that we can sort through potential answers to try and determine which ones are better and which ones might be worse. But we have to constantly be open to pushing and questioning. This is what Socrates taught us. Like, every time you think you know the answer, think again.
Right. There's a particular language that I hear over and over again, which is UATX is here for the pursuit of truth, the pursuit of knowledge. There's a line in the Declaration of Independence, I think my favorite line, which is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But if we look at a university like Harvard, for example, their motto is just veritas, just truth, right?
Yeah.
Is there an importance to that word pursuit?
First of all, thank you, because I've actually never thought about that connection between, the pursuits articulated in the Declaration of Independence and our commitment to the pursuit of truth. And that's very helpful and interesting. I'm going to unpack that. I think it's rooted in a kind of understanding of human beings as capable of knowing things about the world, capable of pursuing knowledge, but also limited. Socrates' insight was that human beings have to begin by not recognizing what we do know, but recognizing what we don't know and our own limitations. That intellectual humility is the first step on the path to wisdom. There's a tremendous amount of work that you have to do sort of internally and communally to advance in the direction of things that are true. So it's the pursuit, it's the activity of truth seeking that I think defines human beings. And that's, I think, the activity that we commit to at a university.
On that note of the Declaration of Independence, UATX is pretty unique in that we have a constitution for our school, one that is malleable but robust and also enforceable. So what was the process like to kind of come up that, hey, we should write a constitution, and then who wrote that? How did it come about?
So if you think about, the Declaration of Independence as a kind of statement of the principles, the values that animated the founding of the Republic, and the Constitution as being the kind of, the governing infrastructure that will protect and preserve those values over time, we knew what we believed in as a university, what our values were. And then we had to sort of think about, like, okay, once we become an operating institution, how are we going to protect those principles and preserve them over time? So, we looked at the founding and we said, a constitution is a way to articulate a governing structure. Our founding trustee, Neil Ferguson, a historian, took on the responsibility, let's say, capturing the collective spirit and set of ideas that animated the Constitution. The most important part of the Constitution, the most important feature that we've sort of embedded in our governing structure is a judicial branch, and that's comprised of what we call an adjudicative council, made up of 7 scholars, constitutional scholars and academics who are outside the university, but who show a commitment to our principles.
So I am very excited to get to start class. And something that I also think about is, in 10 or 20 years from now, when we have our college reunion, right, with this founding class, it'll be curious to see what UATX is like at that point. What do you imagine for UATX during, in this kind of extended timeline?
I'm so focused right now on the first day of classes. It's an ambitious question. What's important to me is that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 200 years from now, that we continue to be the university we aspire to be, that we uphold what we believe to be true, whether that's in a community of 1,000 students or 10,000 students, whether it's in a leafy, ivy-covered campus or in a downtown high-rise. To me, those are details that are important, but not the most important things. Right. We are beginning this adventure with an amazing set of incoming students. And my enthusiasm for the incoming class is limitless. I brag about the incoming students all the time. And an unbelievable group of faculty. You put those two things together and it's magic.
Yeah.
Right? For me, the university is a table, some chairs, and some books, and people talking to each other. That's a university. The trappings around that, whether we have a mascot, whether we're in one location or another, what the endowment is, to me, that's not what's most important to me right now. What's most important for me is to know that the spirit of this institution is alive. We think open inquiry, freedom of conscience, and civil discourse, they're not optional. Like if you compromise any of those things, at that point you're some other kind of institution.
Right.
So one of my versions of paradise is walking down the halls of the Scarborough building, seeing table after table surrounded by students and faculty, alive with discussion, just where you can feel the palpable energy of the conversation coming out of the room, and just knowing that that's the activity that sustains the institution. I mean, I know from my own experience in decades across higher education that institutions that are committed to discussion, debate, dialogue, produce sharper minds than those that aren't. And what the world wants from universities are sharp minds.